Part 1, Forgetting Childhood Personal Comments. For all of this, for part 1, it's pretty much all my experiences. The memories from before I was born, walking down the street, forcing myself to remember. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I know I've remembered as little as possible. Seems like I've forgotten so much, but that's what I can remember. And it is part of my being. I know it's true for me. The haunted house, yeah, even my mom's got some stuff. She knows more things that happened because I was so young at the time. I can't remember everything at all that's happened. My mother remembers more. I have some videos out there for talking about it. But yeah, all that stuff happened, plus a lot more. That was part of it. So yeah, it was true. In one of the videos, there was a photo showing an overhead view. I believe it's from Google Earth. And it shows an asylum across the railroad tracks. And yeah, that's Central Asylum. So we lived next to an asylum, and Dad would drive through there sometimes as a shortcut to home. And I do remember people escaping from the chairs they were locked into, running across the grounds. And I'm like, run, get away, kind of thing. So that's true. All the experiences are real that I put in here. However, there is one in part 1 with Matthias. The little boy across the road track said his name was Adam. My name's Adam. Learned how to tie a noose. I remember learning how to tie a noose somewhere. I don't remember where it came from. I don't remember it being exactly from Mathis. And this is the only part of this entire book that's really fuzzy. If you want to go more into, is it unreal? Not sure. Dramatized a little bit. And it's that part with the other boy on cross from the tracks, named Adam also. My imaginary friend name was Matthias, was actually Matthias. And this is where part of my life gets a little odd also from memories. Matthias, I know I had a best friend named Matthias. I remember eating at Matthias's house. Matthias lived across the railroad tracks, on the other side of the railroad tracks. It used to be a long time ago that Matthias, my mom, when I'd ask Mom, because I was so young, asked Mom about Matthias, yes, he was real. And then later, for many years, I'd ask Mom about Matthias, and Matthias was my imaginary friend. He was not real. And that went on for years. Now it's back to Matthias was real. It was his sister that babysat us, and yes, we did eat at his house. So I tend to think Matthias, my imaginary friend Matthias, was probably real at this point. But there are times when it switches to he was my imaginary friend. Talking to other people, it's like reality shifts on me. So reality will sometimes be that Matthias is real, and other times in this reality, Matthias is not real. He was imaginary. And that's from other people telling me this. Because I was so young at the time, it's kind of fuzzy. Also fuzzy is the part about me with the noose and my brother hanging off the thing right there. It used to be that my mom would tell me that was me and my brother, and now it was my brother and my sister doing it, and not me. So reality changes sometimes over time, it seems like, from what people tell me, because that memory is really hard for me to remember. It was so young and very fuzzy for me. So this is other people telling me, and the problem I have with it is it comes in one way, and then years later it shifts into another version, and it's like, I don't know if I'm jumping timelines or what's happening, but this is the biggest fuzzy piece of the book, is with my imaginary friend Matthias, the little Adam across, mirror reflection across railroad tracks, that kind of thing. Currently, in its current form, Matthias is real. His sister was our babysitter, and so that imaginary friend Matthias was real. His sister was our babysitter, and they did live across the train tracks closer to another corner of the asylum there, I guess, somewhere over there. So that's the fuzziest part of the book. The rest of the book, I do switch people's names, just like before. So at the end of part 1, I talked about Don and Grace and Nebo and all that, and that's my name is Don. I am Don Jr. My father is Don. My mother is Grace. So I use their names as the new people coming in. And as far as that last piece, yeah, that really happens, and my mom does feel guilty about it. That the new family that moved in with the boy my age, he saw monsters. He saw things trying to come get him, and they did put him in institution. I don't know if you call it asylum or whatever, but in an institution at least for a while, I guess. I don't know anything more than that, but they put him in an institution because he kept going on about seeing things coming to get him. And my mom feels really guilty about that and won't talk about it. That is absolutely true. So that's my few comments on part one. It seems fantastical, probably, a lot of the things, but they're all real. And the fuzziest piece is that piece with the reflected atom across the railroad tracks. That was actually Matthias, my friend, my imaginary / real friend that lived across the railroad tracks. Part 2, Change, High School, Personal Comments. This is the 7th time I'm trying to do this video. Getting overly dramatic and emotional in some places. So this will be much better. I have confidence this will be much better. All that happened like that. It really did. It really did. The people in there are real people. I've changed the names, as I've mentioned in other places, in other videos. I've changed the names and moved some experiences around. Only a few experiences have I moved around. The rest are exactly like it happened. Only very few, less than what I can count on my hand for the entire novel, or whatever you want to call it. Less than 5, I've moved around a little bit. Part 1, I talked about Matthias and that being a little fuzzy. The little fuzzy part here is with Becky and Jimbo, the rebels of the school. They're real people. Their real names are Missy and Toby. Going and smoking at recess in the corners, hidden, being the rebels, outcast, and all that. And I really liked them. They're pretty awesome, I thought. You know, him getting the car, the battery dying and starting with electricity like that within my hands, feeling that actually happened. That happened exactly like that. Yeah. The thing that did not happen with him was the snow. In the book, I talk about telling her how I can talk to weather. Sometimes things happen, and suggested that she write down a date in the future and an exact time on that date when it would start snowing. Then it did in the book, and they freaked out and ran away. Well, that did not happen with them. That happened about a year later when we moved back to West Monroe, and I got a girlfriend named Michelle. I thought Michelle would be like my earlier friend Tara, who I am currently married to, by the way. But I thought Michelle at the time would be like Tara and could accept it, me being open and honest, and she couldn't. I was wrong. But that experience happened with her. I told her about it. She wrote down some date several weeks in the future, maybe even a month. It might have been a month in the future. It's a long time in the future. And she wrote down a date and then the exact time that it would start snowing. And I talked to the sky. I said, would you please respond to her, even though I have no clue about what day or time she wrote down, respond to her for what she's doing. And then it happened. On that exact date and that exact time, it started snowing. And she freaked out. And that was the end of that. So that's one of when I say that the experiences are real, but I've moved a few around, just a handful, less than a handful around. In part 1, it was Matthias with being a little fuzzy, and for part 2, it's this one. The experience is very real. It really happened. Just didn't happen with Becky and Jimbo. It happened later. What happened with Dean, the little girl that died in the trailer fire? She's a real person, and that is her real name. Her real name's Roberta Dean, and that actually happened just like that, exactly as I described in the book. The experiences are very real. They really are. These are real people. Even when it seems so unreal, like the coach turning into the high school principal, still being the coach and targeting me like that. That's very true. It happened just like that. How could a coach see a parent spinning tires on gravel, not screeching or trying to spin out or anything? It's just no traction on gravel. Sometimes when you turn and you turn to go away, and when making the turn, tires spin a little bit on gravel. That's all it was. And saying the student will go to detention if the parent does that. Yeah, that actually came over the intercom and happened exactly like that. That's real. And just those few examples are minor. It was much worse than what I put in the book. He even went after my brother. My brother went out for the football team, and he told the football players to physically hurt my brother. Not just go hard at him in practice, physically hurt him in practice. And his really good little friend at the time told him that that's what these other team members were told. He was even told to do it, to harm him. And he told my brother that. My brother didn't believe him until he got out on the field. And he ended up flipping the coach slash principal off and then telling him off. And then that was the end of that in the sports for that part, for football anyway. So it was worse than what I put in the book. The experience of the video I put out there with the bridge and me not remembering, that's true. My memory is very fragmented around there. I can't remember what happened. It's just very, very fragmented. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't look into it. I don't think I need to know. I'm fine without it. Everything's fine. But the very first clearest part is being on the road, walking in pain, and I physically could not turn behind me. When I heard a car or automobile coming up behind me, I could not even turn around to try to wave someone down for help. I could not do it. It was fear of, if I get in there, they're going to do something to me, kidnap me, take me away, do something to me. And I physically couldn't. And then a truck did just automatically pull over without me flagging them down and took me to that gas station that you see there in the video. That's the actual gas station. Still looks like that from way back in high school days. The town hasn't changed much at all. It still hasn't. It's just like that still. Except for the logging road. That logging road is nice now. That you see in the video, boy, it's been paved over and asphalt. That's a tree farm out there. Very little traffic. It's a logging road. That's a tree farm out there. And it goes to the lumber mill. Wow, it's nice now. Anyway. Let's see, what else? Even two more things I'll talk about. The part about the dark entity coming into me and staying hard to get out. That really happened. I did put text on the seat of the bus. When the teacher said she wanted a 500-word essay kind of thing on something and to present it to the class for our presentation skills, trying to learn to public speak. That's true. I believe in the video I made an error. I said 500 pages or something like that at first. It's not pages, it's words. That was my error saying pages, but it was words. And then I came up with 1,000 words. And the title was Methods of Torture. And the class was stunned, and the teacher said that will never happen again. She will put out a list of appropriate topics, and that will not be included. That's true. That's very true. That's all. These experiences are real. They're all true in the book. So why didn't I put out the book as nonfiction? Well, it's because I changed people's names, and I've moved a couple of experiences around like that I just mentioned with the snow. So made it nonfiction, I think. I don't really know how that works, but that's what I did. For the last piece, the reason this is the 7th video, it's very hard to talk about. And it'll probably become clear in part 3 why it's hard to talk about. Even in all my main videos that I have on my main page, in all of them, I only talk about this once or 1.5, maybe twice if I'm lucky, about this. And I've been doing this for 4 years now. Whew. Okay, so the easy part. The walk-in. Something coming into me. The preacher telling me that I'm the thing wrong with the world. This is the easy part. Telling that I'm the thing wrong with the world. Yeah, that happened just like that. Suicidal depression, that happened just like that. It really did. After this traumatic experience or whatever, the preacher just suddenly left. That really happened. Temporary preacher came in. Nobody knows what happened. That really happened like that. It really did. And I don't know what's going on with all that. I have no idea. The hard part. The walk-in happened just like that. Not knowing things. Everything's brand new. It took months to settle into my own skin. This bigger etheric body where it feels like I have extra hands. This etheric energy bigger than myself. So much bigger. Like a second, 2 beings in one space. It's exactly like that. Now the hard part that I do have in the book, and I talk about it a lot in the book, is the wings. What I call wings. I don't know exactly what it is. That's the only way I can describe it, and probably because growing up in a church, angels, things like that, feeling wings, that's what it feels like. It could be some kind of energy, etheric energy. or something, etheric or something. I don't know, but from the back, shoulder blades coming out, able to move them like appendages, like arms and stuff. It's what it's like. It's like that. It's very, very much like that. And wings is the best description that I can give. Um, I don't know how to describe it better. So I'm not exactly sure. But wings is the best description that I can give. And it sounds insane and crazy, but that's what it's like. And then what happens in part 3, it's pretty traumatic. And for me, it really was. And because it's so extreme, that's why it's hard to talk about. It's a lot to talk about. There's so many odd coincidences and things that have happened in my life. It's odd. It's hard to admit certain things. Not that I'm crazy, but what if kind of things. Like the silver sword. I mentioned about the silver sword, beam of light coming through, the sword of light being more for comfort and pointing the way home to heaven or whatever. Yeah, that really happened. Just like in the book. That's exactly it. That's it. The odd thing is, a few years ago, once I found this community out there and made me feel not alone, I met a mentor named Phil Gruber. He was teaching me meditation and some visualization methods, and which I don't meditate, by the way. I really don't. I can do it, but it's like I'm meditating all the time with my eyes open. It's permanent with me, it feels like. It's what I get out of meditation when I do it is what I get when I'm wide awake. It's all the time. It doesn't stop. Anyway, I'm off subject rambling again. Let me stop. Anyway, sort of like thing with Phil. Combined all of our sessions into one. Each person gets some kind of symbol eventually, some type of symbol for themselves. This was mine, this sword of light, silver sword of light. When he came back during our next session the following week, he asked about it. I told him what it was, and he was stunned because that was going to be a future lesson about the silver sword being for comfort and all this kind of stuff. And I had been doing that since a teenager. Only recently did I buy this book, which I showed in the previous personal comments, the Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch, this book right here. It also talks about the sword of light in here. And it's not like a typical weapon like you think, not for cutting or bleeding or causing pain. It's not for that. It's not like that. And it's mentioned in that book too, and I had no clue until just more recently, within the last year or two, or whenever I got the book. But that was in high school, way back when. And it is a part of me, and I know that. And it's hard to explain. Got through this pretty well. Took, 7 times, I think? Got it pretty well this time. Yeah, I think so. What else? Let me look at the chapters. Let's see, anything else I'm missing? Nah, that's probably the bulk of it. Probably the bulk of it. Yeah, that's probably the bulk of it. But I was just thinking back to that part with the dark entity I mentioned, and the attacks and the methods of torture and all that, and merging with the sun. I really did do that. I did go out, lay out in the field, and merged with the sun, and felt all this energy and light, and it was amazing. Funny thing is, with Phil Gruber, that's also one of the techniques in the book. I mean, not in the book, but one of his techniques that he does for visualizations and stuff is merging with the sun kind of thing. So I'm not even going to go into all this other stuff that's not in the book because there's a lot to it. There's a whole lot to it. I'm going to stop here. And thank you for listening to me ramble, completely ramble. Thank you. Part 3, Crushed College. Personal comments. All right. So now you've probably got the theme if you got to part 3 already. My other 2 personal comments, I tell you that these are real experiences, and they are. I have changed a couple of things around, and the 2 for this section that I changed around is the experience with the stamp machine and the lady behind me. In the book, I am trying to get stamps, go out, find $1. The machine won't work for me. I push energy into it, then turn around, and there's a lady behind me. That's in the book for sending out resumes. That actually happened in my career. I was newsletter editor for the North Texas section American Industrial Hygiene Association, NTSAIHA, professional organization, scientific. And I was the newsletter editor, and I was mailing out newsletters, and that exact experience happened then. So I just shifted it around instead of getting into the weeds with all the other stuff in career. So I just moved it here. It seemed to just make more sense just to let you know about the experience, and that's very real. Also, I believe around that same time, I'm talking about in the car, a song Double Vision came on when I'm thinking about two things at once. And also, Think I'm Crazy, and the song Crazy on You comes on the radio. Well, that happened more recently, like 4 years ago. I just put it in there because the radio stuff is daily. I mean, that's all the time. In part 4, I'll be able to put up some actual video examples of that happening because I did. By this point, I'm more aware that I'm not alone, and I do put out some actual video of it happening as it's happening. So that's real. Daily stuff happens with me all the time. It's daily. So it just is. Okay, there's a lot of in college that in there it's probably hard to believe, or it's like, did he really make that up? And no, I'm not making it up. It really happened. It's just like that. Buck in the book was my roommate in the dorm. His real name's Bob. Yeah, that really happened like that. Him modeling with 3 other guys. Yeah, I saw the picture. Yeah, it's real. All that's real. The 2 girls that came up, that's real. The witch and the meteor, that's real. All that's exactly as I put it in the book. Very real. Eric, the gentleman I met at the party and warned him about the wreck. Yep, that's happened exactly like that. His real name is Charles. His real wife's name is Kathy, not Tina. In the book, they're Eric and Tina. Their real names are Charles and Kathy. Very real couple, very wonderful couple. And Charles was telepathic, just like me. He really was. And that's where I learned to, I guess people nowadays call it manifest. He knew about that. I knew he could do it and showed me how at that strip poker game, which was real. That happened just like that. So I am putting actual experiences the way they happen, just like in the book. Yeah, so it really does. The experience of walking across the bridge with, it says Tyrone in the book, his real name's John, happened just like that. I made up a book in the story that I wrote, just so I wouldn't have some kind of copyright from Stephen King and Peter Straub, who wrote The Talisman, and that was the actual book. He was reading, and I was able to keep up the conversation with him about the book, and I hadn't read the book yet. And then I went forward on him a little past what he was about to read, and that completely freaked him out. So yeah, that really happened just like that. What else? The deja vu part, when I started realizing it's more like premonition stuff, I did write down a whole conversation that morning and put it in my pocket, wrote it down black and white, put it in my pocket, and then walked across that bridge there at the college of the bayou. When that conversation started happening, I was able to pull it out after it had completed, pull it out and say, like, yeah, that's exactly the conversation. I wrote down word for word. My answer was his response, my answer, his response, my answer, his response, back and forth, and I wrote the entire conversation down on a piece of paper, pulled it out, and went, yep, this isn't some brain misfire. This is something else. And so in college, I kind of confirmed it with that. But still, I couldn't explain it all. And yes, I did start denying all of it. I really did when that image of the girl appeared in the wall at the bar. That really happened just like that. It caused me to start denying everything. It was real. It was in the newspaper. And I started denying it and not doing any more deep research or looking into it. But nothing stopped for me. It all kept going and kept building. And things continued to happen. And I just led 2 lives. And that's real. That's very real. The other real part that was hard to talk about at the end of the chapter, Crushed. What chapter was that? Crushed. Let's see. Chapter 28. When that dark entity crushed me. Twisted bones, ripping, all that kind of thing. Rip wings off, they're gone. That kind of thing. That part, that happened like that. After that, my body went on automatic. My responses to people's questions, me smiling at graduation, all of that, my body was on automatic. It was just automatic. Until I was shopping at Berkshire's and I picked up a head of lettuce, put it in the grocery basket. my awareness came back, and it was just like that in the book. Just like I said in the book, that's exactly what happened. Went to the car, and then those two songs, only those two songs, nothing else. I turned the radio on, those two songs came on, and then I turned the radio off and drove home. And yeah, that actually happened just like that. Whew. And at the very end of that chapter, Crushed, I'm starting to get a little bit emotional about it. And I thought I would do a lot worse. I'm patting myself on the back for not completely freaking out over that one and getting all emotional. Because that is the part that I could not hardly ever talk about in all my videos over the 4 years on my main site. That's the part that's very hard to talk about. So I don't go into it a lot because it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't fun. Anyway, what else? I don't know. I think that's about it. But yeah, it's all real. And how I got that job at the very, very end, manifesting a job like that, that actually happened. That really happened. I did not send this group a resume at all. I didn't know who they were. And he did meet me at the airport and pretty much offered me the job right there. Said he had to go get the details about benefits and stuff and salary. And they called me. They did. And I said yes immediately as fast as I could. And I moved out. A lot of times in videos I say I work for the EPA. I was actually subcontracted to the EPA. EPA contracts out all their field work, all the people that go take the samples in the moon suits and everything else. That was me. They contract, and sometimes the contractors subcontract out. So I actually worked for ICF Kaiser Engineers. That's who I worked for. They worked for Ecology and Environment, who was then contracted directly to the EPA. So it's EPA, Ecology and Environment, and then us, ICF Kaiser Engineers. And so that was us. So that's absolutely real. Yeah, that actually happened like that. Moved into downtown Dallas, and that'll be the next section. Part 4 is career. And yes, strange things continue to happen. Thanks for listening. Part 4, Lost, Career, Personal Comments. Alright, normally in these personal comments, I try to let you know if there's anything kind of out of sync or out of place or fuzzy within that whole section, the part. And for this part, career, I believe there were 2 minor ones, just really, really minor. For the part where I'm dancing on the dance floor with my future wife, Tara, who's my wife now, Tara, in the ballroom, all that happened just like that. Overhearing the conversation with a lady named Chris, that is her real name, Chris talking about this job at Bell Helicopter. Well, that's very true. All that's very true like that. The only difference is it wasn't her father that worked at Bell Helicopter in the shop floor area. It was another co-worker named Steve. His father did. That she knew about it, and so she was talking about it. We did go to the table just like that, had that conversation, and yes, that huge coincidence about the job, trying to manifest it. And then this lady named Helen, that is her real name, also a co-worker of mine at that company. Her husband had that position previously, and she knew me and did talk to her husband about me, so he was able to talk to the people within the Bell Safety Department. I was able to get the internal job posting, tailor the resume per what he did at his job, what I learned from his wife, and put it all together. So it's a huge coincidence that happened to pull everything together like that. So, I mean, that's not a big deal, really. It's not super fuzzy or anything. My childhood's fuzzy because it's so long ago a little bit, but this is really clear memories because this is recent, right? More recent times for me. And so, yeah. All that happened just like that. Chris's bad luck, yep, just like that. Everything exactly happened just like that. All of that happened just like that. The starter home, just like that. Yep, exactly like that. Everything's straight on track. The other fuzzy part that I moved around a little bit is the Texas Renaissance Festival. I said we're there with the people in the book named Jeremy and Carol, I believe. It wasn't them. This was actually 2 couples with us at the time. Our friends who still live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Alina and Alan, and then another couple, Brian and Yvonne, and it was Yvonne's red dress that was going to get ruined. And then all of it happened exactly like that. So I just changed the names of the people and had it be 1 couple instead of 2 couples with us. But those events, that experience happened exactly like that. Yes, it turned into a flooding event. Happened exactly like that. Everything else in the book, exactly like that. The half-price bookstore, practicing the little witchcraft stuff, yep, exactly like that. The stranger across the railroad tracks who turned and looked at me and then just disappeared after the train went by, yep, that happened exactly like that. That's very real. I'm looking at the book now here on my side. Oh, um, yeah, the suicidal depression part. Yeah, that actually really did happen. In the book, the guy's name is Jeremy. It was his real name, Mike. I had a best friend. I really did have a best friend. I did fall in love with him. My best friend there. Yeah. And then everything went cold. Um, I said he was disgusted. Yes, I did. I did say that to him. And yeah, it was true. And that conversation at the very end, you probably thought, this is horrible writing just to chalk it off and end it like that, end a friendship like that in just such a brief, short, cut it hard, off, done. Why did I write it that way? Because that's exactly the way it happened. I mean, exactly the way it happened. You might think it's a bad writing style, but I mean, it's real. That's exactly how it happened. And I haven't talked to him since. Uh, yeah, having the wreck in the car. Not, I didn't see the guy coming up behind me in the rearview mirror. It was this instinct, this images and stuff like that. It did break the driver's side car seat that I was sitting in. The car seat broke off the frame of the car, and the driver's seat and me went into the back seat of the car, and I walked away without a scratch. And if I hadn't been there, it would have probably killed that lady's little girl. That's all very real. Let's see. I mentioned about the suicidal depression. Yeah, it was very dark. It was very, very dark. The images in my mind with the cage and the beam of light and all that. Yeah, that's true. All that's 100% true. I did all that. It did last for 6 months, and every day was an eternity. And I did walk out of the job just like that. It really happened that way. The thing with the truck over the bridge that snapped me out of it, very true. That actually happened. It was my wife's. I was driving her truck because we had switched cars. She got the better car once we got a new car, the Toyota Corolla. So she got it, and I got the truck. Old Ford Ranger, green, stick shift on the column, not on the floor. It's on the column. That old tie rods for steering, manual steering, all that. Very easy to work on. I love the truck. And then the tie rods broke on a bridge over the river. Yes, that's absolutely true. I did go into the other lane, about to have a head-on collision, within feet of a head-on collision, and I can't explain what happened logically, in a normal manner. I can't explain how the truck was pushed back into my lane. I don't know how. I can't physically, normally, rationally come up with a rational way that happened because my steering wheel was spinning free. The tie rods broke. They were physically not connected to the tires. And my steering wheel was spinning free. And yeah, my truck went back into my lane and the wheels went straight. And then the road did take a left, and I just slowed down with a brake and went off the side of the road. And then that song came on. And I put a link in the bottom of that particular video to the song by Peter Gabriel featuring Kate Bush called Don't Give Up. Listen to it. I just found out that they played that at Matthew Perry's funeral. You know, Matthew Perry, the actor, died recently, and they played that at his funeral. It's one of his favorite songs. It's one of those songs. If you're really down and kind of need help, it's one of those good songs to listen to. And it came on the radio right then, and it was like, wow, and it worked. It helped a lot. The soul shatter, yeah, that really happened. All that really happened. The electricity on the pole with the supervisor and me feeling it, that absolutely happened. 100% just like that. There was still dust on the electrical outlet, had not been disturbed, and I was there telling them, don't touch it, something is wrong, forcing the supervisor of the electrical contractors to go figure out what's wrong, and you couldn't see that anything was wrong, and he did demand to know how I knew. So yeah, all that happened just like that. Everything's happened just like that. It's all very real in the book. Oh, that's very real. At the very, very end of me reading the book, the very end of part 4, I mentioned something about nightmares and walking through the machine shop barefooted. That's very true. For several years at the end of my career there, I had been having a repeating nightmare, and that was my nightmare is our Plant 5 machine shop on Highway 360, Bell Helicopter. Part of it was CNC machines, different kind of milling machines, and milling metal. And a lot of times it's spiral pieces of metal that come off, and it's very, very sharp, very sharp. And I just had this nightmare of all these shavings on the floor and me walking barefoot through there, slicing my feet to shreds. And that was a repeating nightmare dream. It continued after I quit Bell and moved back here to West Monroe. It continued for about 5 years. It took about 5 years for me to de-stress from that job. I was stressed, really stressed, and that stress lasted and slowly, slowly went away over a 5-year period. It took a while. It was that much stress. So that's it. Yeah, part 4 is pretty much straightforward and all, yeah, very real. Yep. Very real. Now, part 5 coming up is going to bring it into the modern day for me here in West Monroe and finding out that I'm not alone. And then I'm going to start referencing other videos on my main site. And it all is happening as I'm recording it all on video, and things are happening and I'm recording it. So it brings it up to what I call retirement, which is close to current day now. Thanks for listening. Part 5, Found, Retirement, Personal Comments. Whew, it is done. That is all of the book. 5 parts, 10 chapters per part, so 50 chapters total. For part 5, Retirement, there'll be probably in each chapter videos listed below in the description box, linking to the videos I talk about in the chapter. Yeah, when I say I'm going to create a video number SH whatever in the book, I really did, and there are links below in the description box to that video that I created years before. So yeah, what I'm saying is true. It's all very true. The video links I talk about are there for you to review. You can go and look at them yourself. I'm looking back on the book table of contents right now. Anything that I really need to talk about, it all happened just like that, pretty much. Just like that. Just like that. Discovering starseeds, the emerald green, what I seemed like armor, but it also is mentioned in the Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch by J.J. Hurtak, about the crystal prisms and the mirrors forming this reality kind of thing. So I found that very interesting. It's talking about it. For me, it's emerald green color, which when you're talking about chakras, that is the center of the heart. It's the center between the upper and lower parts, between the more 3D world and the more intelligence, knowledge, wisdom-based worlds. It's the thing in the middle. Let's see. What else? Oh, in the book, when I was speaking about it, there's a gentleman named John Appleby, I think I mentioned in the book. That's really Phil Gruber. Some of y'all may know Phil Gruber if you're in this community. You know Phil. Phil Gruber became my mentor. And yeah, that was when I first heard him. What really I think was, might have been the second time I'd heard his name, but when I attended that presentation, Through Portal to Ascension, it was called Visitors to a Small Planet. It is still out there on their website. I guess members can go back and review those seminars. It was 2 hours presented by Phil Gruber. And the massive coincidences in the book with Phil, John Appleby's name in the book, with my mentor, relating to everything before, yeah, it happened like that. It really, really did. When he was in the Visitors to a Small Planet presentation, he said he had never met a guardian before, but he had heard about them, that they learned without knowing, that they were protectors of truth and had something to do with 1111, and they guard the portals and stuff like this. And everything he went through was pretty much me. Things that I had recorded on video before ever learning about him, before ever hearing the word starseeds, and I documented it on video form here at BitChute, you can go back and even look at the posting dates if you need confirmation for any of that when they were actually posted, starting I think around November of 2019. So it goes far back, but that is Phil Griver, and it all happened just like that. Even the silver sword part, saying that's a future technique we haven't even discussed yet, and yeah, that happened just like that. It all happened. At the very end, the epilogue, I'm using my actual name because that actual discussion between me and my wife Tara actually happened exactly like that. I was trying to figure out how to finish the book. Chapter 50 was done. The last of the book was done, so I wanted an epilogue to kind of close it out and whatever. So like, well, I don't know how to do that. And then all this strange stuff started happening again. Sitting there, feeling these energy waves going across my body. Yep, that happened. Talking about it, I downloaded all the albums, which I did. And she said, why don't you download that last album? I'm like, okay. And the title of the album is Dark Guardian. And it's like, it took me some time. After the book was published, I was kind of proofreading the book. Not for sale, proofreading, just to make sure, correct mistakes, things like that. And then when I got to that last page, what does that mean, Dark Guardian? It hit me because I had just read the beginning prologues, the very beginning, not prologue, but acknowledgments, and the acknowledgments at the very, very beginning. And then here, at the very end. At the beginning, I say, I'm not hiding anymore. I'm revealing what was hidden. I'm not hiding anymore. And at the very end, it's Dark Guardian. Instead of dark being a negative thing or unable to see or anything like that, for me, the dark all of a sudden went back to the beginning of the book and made this loop between the acknowledgments and the epilogue, dark as in hidden, a hidden guardian. And so for Dark Guardian, for me, what it means is hidden. I remained hidden all this time until now. It's time. Just like I started getting that voices in my head. It's time. Do it now. So it's time. I'm not hiding anymore. So there it is. The Dark Guardian at the end of the book relates back to the acknowledgments at the very beginning saying I'm not hiding anymore. Dark as in hidden. Not anymore. Thank you for listening. And I hope you have a great day.